Hello there everyone, welcome back. I just want to give you a couple updates on the type of changes I have made to my fleet after the last episode, the last match as it were. Because I had a few days where I didn't really get time to actually do a match between match 6 and match 7, so it gave me some interesting time to reconsider some of my upgrades in that, as you probably may have already seen a couple of them. I have decided to strip out 2 of the favors, as well as extended sensors on most of my dauntlesses there, and I have also switched out one of the torpedo dauntlesses for the lance variant. For situations, mainly I'm thinking of Tau here, where I may have difficulty hitting with torpedoes, so just having straight up raw firepower, especially with lances of all things, may be useful against the Tau matchup. Although I'm very inexperienced with Tau, among a lot of things I imagine. So this is more an experimentation, something a little bit different to kind of fill out my light cruiser slot, should I have the points to fill them in. But also, what these lack of favors did for my dauntlesses, as I also removed the extended sensors on my Cobra here, it has allowed me a little bit extra upgrades. We have completely kitted out my cruisers and my overlords with the energy ram, the power ram. And to be honest, I am a little bit still indecisive because I don't know if this is going to be as valuable as I'm thinking it will be. But what it does do is it gives me extra power in the close range type of engagements. I have the torpedo that's kind of the all-rounder, more for long range torpedo harassing than anything else, but it is useful for even in close range to get more reliable hits, especially with a very mobile target. And of course, shield upgrades is to make me more capable in long-range skirmishes, which gives me an armor piercing the power ram for a more in-close engagement. So the tyrants are well-rounded. I also did with the dictator as well. It makes sense, at least with the dictator, because I don't have so much reason to use my broadside so much, because I only have one pair of macro batteries, and they're not even upgraded with the armor piercing rounds for that reason as well. But those are the changes I made to my fleet there. Hell, I was even contemplating switching over the Imperial Navy favor over to my regular Dauntless with the Lance, so I can use that more as like a spotting backup ship there. But it will take some experimentations. I just want to give you the update there so you know how my mindset is and how things have changed for the next upcoming matches. Alright folks, it is time for match number 7 as I face off once again with the Orcs. Which is going to be interesting because it's a good opportunity to try out my new power ram upgrade, as I so mentioned in the pre-game little commentary. But nonetheless, I think after all the matches with Orcs, I think I am somewhat comfortable with this matchup. It's not quite optimized by any means, because I'm kind of at this point starting to second guess, as watching this recording, second guess my commitment to space station assault, since the Orcs are going to commit suicide anyway. So unless I'm really impeccable with my defenses there is a big risk that they could just destroy the battle station without really being able to do the damage I need, I feel like, anyway, because after all, the Orcs, well, kind of like how the Imperial Navy even, all seem to want to charge in there, and the Orcs at least have the close range firepower to justify it, especially if he's decided to field the battleship with the Devil Mega Cannon in this sense, because hell, my last Orc opponent did that, and he actually managed to break through, even though I kind of was going to try the same strategies before. Hell, actually, the first time Isados kind of did the space station assault, or at least tried to attack me there, that went incredibly well, and then it started to fall apart a little bit, but if nothing else, this gives me some tweaks to try and deal with his savages if he's going to start fielding them there. And in this case, he doesn't field as many frigates as with Isados does. Instead, he fields 4 cruisers, the battleship, a battle cruiser I believe, a cruiser, and a light cruiser I think. And then fills it out with a couple of savages afterwards. So it's not the exact same type of fleet, but it's going to be the same feel. Even the weaponry, I believe, is a slightly different there, as he's also fielding tractor cannons, I think, for 1, maybe 2 of his light cruisers. Actually, he may have fielded 2 light cruisers, come to think of it. It's really hard to say off the top of my head. I honestly can't remember, but nonetheless, that is what he's going to be planning on fielding over here as I try and position myself to hide my Widowmakers. I use the Gas Cloud Asteroid Field to hopefully the best of their abilities, at least to be able to reveal them early. Not that it really does a whole lot for me, but it allows me to prioritize and be able to decide which one targets I should focus on, as I do a little bit of a crisscross mine formation here, not just a straight line, not really double layering as I did before. I just slightly crisscross it just so that way the mines are a little bit tighter. That's the hope anyway, although you can see me having possibly a little bit of difficulty deploying them as the UI isn't the most accommodating. It shows that it seems like I could deploy it, but I have to move it a little bit to actually get the stick. But that's the idea with the minefield anyway. It denies his most direct route, so he has to go around it, attack from the side, and in theory, that should give me at least one more torpedo salvo to shoot at him before he gets in close range. As he decides to field on up, as I said before, this is a battleship on the left. He's got like a light cruiser. I can't remember what else was on the left. Maybe it was a regular cruiser, but he's got a battleship, a battle cruiser, a regular cruiser, and maybe 2 light cruisers. Either way, you could tell that's the battleship right there, as he happily gives it away with the torpedoes. So I turn my aim for that. I realize the battleship's on the left, and once I start realizing the smaller, lighter ships are over on the right, I decide to swap my cruisers around once these torpedoes go past, because yeah, okay, it was a cruiser of some sort, or maybe the battle cruiser and the battleship on the left, so it's really easy to say, especially now that I detected his savages, that his heavy hitters are on the left, and everything else is on the right there, so I start to prioritize what I can there, because I'm not really seeing very many fighters for that matter either, so hopefully these torpedoes can stick a little bit. But, as you see right now, as I already prelude to, I swap my Dictator and my Tyrant around, so that way the Dictator can receive the savages on the right, or at least any mega cannons, because at least I have a lot of incentive to keep the Dictator's prow facing him, because its damage on the side is pretty negligible, as I already mentioned before, so I feel like it's like the best ship I can use to deter his aggressive assault on the right, at least stall a good amount. And with the bombers in range, I start to harass his first his first Basha there, his first light cruiser. As already, the minefield is bearing a little bit of fruit as he forces a hard 90-degree turn, and this is really damn tempting. Really damn good, because I fired torpedoes, apparently. I'm certain that was not from me, but he got an engine critical hit probably from his speed boost upgrade, so that is a lucky draw on my part there, getting him not only to force the boost sideways, but breaking the engine, so that gives me an amazing amount of time as already this bash has taken some damage, mostly from the bombers I've been sending at it, with 4 more to come right at it, so this is gonna hurt this poor little Basha in the moment, even though it's got like 800 whopping help, where you have nothing else to really shoot at, so it's not really long for this world, especially if the Dictator, whichever ship it is that has torpedoes up. Okay, it's my 2 Tyrants, or Overlords, that have that. I've been calling them Tyrants, I think, because technically they're kind of the same. The reason I take the Overlord and the Tyrants is more for the macro batteries and not so much the Lances, but Bashes is down. I think that one had a Mega Cannon, so that's good to get rid of to help deny damage that could be using on the station once it gets close enough. I managed to dodge the charge on his cruiser at least and get an amazing broadside as a result. Fruits of my labor there is a little bit. Managed to dodge the ram, get double lock on his cruiser as the battleship is still trying to barge on through. But I already told you what this Dictator is supposed to do. Even though it does knock aside the bash a little bit, I don't know if that was from my ramming or if he turned or not. It seems like I only nudged him a tiny bit, so either way, I feel like that's good value because the bash is not even getting his prow shots off. As I try and contest with the savages here, micro warp jump goes off for the battleship on the left, but it has torpedoes at least. If nothing else, it does have torpedoes. I just gotta make sure it does not get a full salvo off on the battle station, because this is gonna get really icky, really messy, really quickly. Even with all the ships kind of preoccupied, as you have one Overlord deal with his what is it? That's the battle cruiser that's on the left there. That the Overlord's nearly crippled. We have a cruiser in the middle that's charging in on the station, and the battleship's all just in firing range as it lobs off his first boarding torpedoes. So, I try and collect myself a little bit. Dictator didn't do the damage it needed to against the savages, but it is in a good position to ram on the rear, and with the 25 armor, they're going to die immediately. Hell, he kind of makes it easy a little bit, on top of lucky hits on the 75 armor prow to take out the first savage. These two cruisers are going to ram each other and make my work a little bit easier, but you could tell, despite how promising things were, this battle station has fallen apart incredibly quickly, but I haven't been watching to see how many torpedoes that was actually the result of. Because really, he doesn't have really any mega cannons aside for his, his savages and ramming to be the source of his frontal damage at least. So, I'm going to have to look at that again just to really understand how much of that was actually from the torpedoes. Since with how close and how long his ships have been there, it could still get really ugly as he rams it one more time. It didn't do the damage he needed to, thankfully. And we got a clean sweep. But this is the reason why I'm really hesitant of going Space Station Assault, because it felt like I had a lot of things going my way there. More due to luck, really, with the engines of the battleship breaking, destroying one of his mega cannon bashes before it even got in firing range. And I did a really good job of deterring his cruisers, at least, from getting a prime shots on the station because he was too busy fighting the overlords at that point. And even then, I nearly lost. So my mindset coming on here is I should probably stop with the space station assaults altogether against orcs. I just don't know at this point what kind of match I should pick for orcs. Because it seems like they're all the same. They're all about torpedoes. I don't think I've seen too many fighters as far as defending himself. So he had a little more frontal punch there, especially if he had any side heavy cannons there, which I never checked for. But that could have also been part of the reason why I had a little bit of difficulty there too. Because he may have still been in range to hit the stations with those cannons, even if he couldn't fire torpedoes or mega cannons effectively. But he gets his choice of map, and interestingly enough, he chooses a planetary assault. So, if you see my first few matches there, you know my mindset at this point. We crushed his first army there, a lot of his heavy hitters, a battle cruiser's gone, his battleship's gone, and we destroyed a lot else. So, I almost fielded the dictator there, so I decided to swap that out with the time, which was my original plan, and we're gonna kind of forfeit this match, at least as far as the mission type. If it's possible to go for the win, I'm gonna do it, but I don't really have the mobility realistically to go after the objectives, especially with their positioning gonna be completely random. I'm gonna rely a little bit on luck. Just a little bit if I'm going to get at the 3 I need, especially when I'm having to fight orc at the same time. So, and also to be honest, I didn't realize this was a planetary assault until the last second either. Just before we got in there, I saw the assault, and for some reason I had it in my mind it was a space station assault, because after all, that was the match I was most prevalently paired up with when against my opponents, and hell, I've been selected so many times too, so it does change my mindset a little bit, but the plan stays the same. I plan really. Just focusing down as many of his cruisers as I can, and preserving my own ships for the final cruiser clash, if he even has any cruisers left after this bout, because he fields a lot of cheaper ships here. And those aren't all frigates there. He feels like maybe 4 cruisers and the rest are savages there. Maybe a brute as well, I can't quite recall. So, let's see, we destroyed 5 of his ships in the last bout, as I said, 1 of each type and 2 light cruisers, basically. And he fielded 4 more, so he basically has 1 light cruiser of some sort that he may not have fielded if it's not a battle cruiser. I can't recall the exact layout, but I'm assuming it's like 2 cruisers, 2 of his bashes. So, either way, the plan's the same. I just want to kill as many of the cruisers as I can, because I think I can deal with bashes, especially if they are all going to be consistent with the mega cannon upgrades on the front. I can kind of outmaneuver them quite heavily in hell. With how much smaller and lighter they are, I can really push them around a good amount too, to keep their prow from facing any of my ships if I'm aggressive enough. It would just be a matter of managing all the frigates I would have to go up against in the cruiser clash. Hell, I still have to deal with a good amount of frigates right now. It's just probably not going to be as excessive as with match 3 if I can destroy these ships. So, I do destroy the first beacon there. I wasn't expecting to kill it so quickly with like 2-3 torpedoes, but we get rid of one stasis bomb, if nothing else. And I'm trying to make a push towards the middle, and hell, even with me moving straight forward, a little bit of staggering here and there to try and dodge torpedoes and get optimal firing, we're still nowhere near the middle to really respond to these objectives very well, even with the first one coming up in 20 seconds. So, again, it comes down to a lot of luck and random RNG to basically dictate if I can go for the objectives or not safely, especially with these orcs. If he has any micro warp jumps or any capacitor recharge, he could easily run me down if I were to go for him. And first objective's up, and I think it's safe to say that is not worth going after. Even if I were in the middle of the map, I would have to fly right through all of his ships. And thankfully, he's decided to turn himself around there. Even with the early premature brace for impact, I got a promising shot if any of my macro cannons can stick on the rear before he gets turned around. Sadly, shields don't even go down on any of them. They're just recharging freely. So, fire off another salvo. They got a really lovely clump there that I can hopefully hit a few of them. Hell, even his 2 cruisers are there, which I didn't even notice, since I haven't identified him yet. And try to get a few hits. I get at least 1 fire from one of the hits. Although, of course, that's short-lived because of the having forced the repair off him. But we got a nice firing arc on at least on the cruisers as I try to prioritize that one, the Terror. His 1 cruiser there, as I got a nice firing arc. It just can easily be shielded by the savages when he starts pushing in. So this is going to get a little bit tenuous, because he's got a decent surround if he can hit me at the same time. But with him surrounding me like he is, and this is a surprise, because he actually hit the cruiser, he got Nova cannons. Only a single Nova cannon, but the supercharged void shield does help with that, since I don't think I'm going to get much more value out of the the supercharged void shield with a number of guns he has. I've not seen any mega cannons of any sort there, so that was the best value. And we're going in, brace for impacts up, shield recharges are ready, so now we just got to weather this storm of frigates. And with him just reloading on all his frigates, I got a nice easy time to destroy these things if I can get an opportunity to ram him. Hell, he's ramming himself for me, which is pretty generous of him. But I gotta manage this damage really well, so keeping my prow to as many savages as possible, even if that torpedo was an amazing failure hitting the frigate. 2-3 still hit the cruiser. Still hit the cruiser, not as terrible as it could have been. This is a bit of a mess, needless to say, but the charges aren't all that very effective, thankfully. It's a bit of a mess, because now my tyrant's just got wedged between 2 ships there. He's doing more damage to himself, I think, than my own. But we remember what the plan is. I am committing to this type of engagement anyway. I just want to destroy his cruisers, maybe destroy any light cruisers I can. Oh, at first I thought he had like 4 cruisers there. I'm wrong. He has the 2 light cruisers and 1 regular cruiser, so he's still got a decent amount for the final match. But beautiful rear shot hit. Micro warp jump for the wombo combo there with the macro batteries, so I'm going for the killing blow. Especially with the fires, it's definitely a killing blow. There is nothing left of that cruiser. Now, we just gotta deal with his silly little Nova Can shenanigans and hit the remaining frigates, which I just start going on a ramming spree here. I just go on a lovely ramming spree, because these savages are not all that effective when on my prowess face him. Hell, they just crumble easily with a very effective ram that doesn't have brace for impact available for him. So it does cost me a little bit of damage, especially with the ones hitting my rear, but we're doing good. We're looking good. Especially now that I upgrade my navigators on my tyrant, they can warp away really quickly, really freely, and there's really no risk of them suffering a lost in warp effect. I just gotta keep it from getting heavily damaged. Just keep it from getting heavily damaged, and I'm eyeing that 1 savage there, trying to hopefully get 1 little tap to kill it off. But not gonna happen with his positioning, but I take the next best thing. I take a nice little basha instead. So there goes the second cruiser. We're down to 3 ships. My tyrant is going to be warping out momentarily, although it did lose its generators though, so it's going to get heavily damaged in this result. I'm trying desperately to get it out of the way, but the Savage gets the one shot it needs, and the Novacan is going to be painfully felt. Well-timed Novacan, but still only going to be 100 damage, but it's going to die to one more lucky shot, isn't it? Yeah, the sap cans are even handed too, so I do lose a single tyrant, but the trade-off is I destroy 3 of his cruisers. And he just promptly concedes. Because, honestly, I'll have to double check this, but do I automatically win if I destroy his last ship in a space station assault or a planetary assault? In all honesty, I do not know that answer. So he may have conceded just to save time, because it wasn't going to be pretty for the cruiser clash anyway. Or I probably would have won right there anyway once his basha was dead, so definitely a short match, but a nice little stomp.